We'll get started here. John Claypool, presentation.
Father, we stand before you, and you have some sadness with Chasse and Gary Hill. He was a lion's lion. He was always smiling, always laughing, and would do anything for you. And he did a lot for this club. He made this club what it was. We ask you to put your arms around him. Most of us know he gives great help. Control his family, Gretchen and Jennifer, and watch over them, both him and your mom. We thank you for being able to meet as lions, for our friendships and all the goodness that we can do for our community. Ask you to keep us on right path. Ask you to bless this food to us and us in your service. Amen.
Amen.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sweet 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of thy pilgrim's pride, from every mountain side, let freedom ring.
Okay. Do we have any guests?
President Tom, fellow members and guests, Dwayne has a guest today.
President Tom, fellow Lions and guests, our Lions emblem has two lions on it, one looking to the past and one looking to the future. And that, I think, goes along with our current prospective member, Gretchen Jones, daughter of Gary Hill. Please give a warm welcome.
When we run that slideshow, all the images are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You
Okay,
can see that in the
moving on,
upper
we're
left on the
I'm going to turn
view.
this over to Larry.
King Lion Mom, co-lion and guests, my pleasure to introduce another fine lion, which many here probably know. I can't say I met him before today, other than on the email. But he has an important topic for us, and that's part of our ecology and taking care of ourselves and the planet we're given to live upon. So without further ado, I'll introduce Leslie to you.
Well, District Governor Maryland asked me to come up with a presentation for you folks up here. So I tried to think, what do I know something about? And that was compost. It's kind of a mundane subject. I'm going to move over here so that we can get the slideshow back up on screen. Composted. Okay, back on program. Hello, Longview pioneers. Is that right? Yeah. You've been a club for how long now?
98 years.
98 years. That's a long time. And how many members do you have in this club?
178.
I would say you're a very active, busy club.
One charter member.
One charter. Well. My name is Leslie Chasse, as you know, and I'm your second vice district governor. I work for Marilyn. She tells me what to do. Sometimes she's pretty good at that. I'm also 19G environmental chair with the multiple district, and I'm also a Clark County veteran master composter recycler. And that's where I learned about the specifics of composting, though actually I grew up composting like a lot of us did here. As an environmentalist, I see, and as a Lion, I see composting as something that Lions could use as an environmental service project. And I'll get to that later. First of all, I want to ask, how many people here in this crowd, in this Lions group, how many of you compost at home? That's quite a few. Did you know that there are people out there that don't know what composting is yet? And it's been around forever, but they've never heard of composting. And when I was teaching composting, it was a very popular subject, and it always amazed me that something so simple, so common, would be so unknown and so popular. So basically, when it comes to composting, I'm pretty much preaching to the choir here. One thing I learned as a composter is that there is no wrong way to compost. There's better ways, but there's no wrong way. Virtually everything in the universe composts. Everything breaks down. So what it boils down to then is, what are your needs? What are your limitations? How much effort do you want to put into it? You have to define all these things individually for yourself. As I said, there's no wrong way, so make it for yourself. Let's go to bump forward, next slide up. I wasn't keeping track on that. That's me, master composter. Next slide. That's compost. And number 4. This is the garden down at the Fort Vancouver site in Vancouver. It's a really nice garden. Next slide. This is the compost that they have down there at the Fort Vancouver site. That there's 3 of them there. And as this area gets developed and compost and break it down, they break it into the second and the third. That's a 3-bin compost. It's also very large. Most of us don't have that kind of room to work with. So then let's talk about different composting methods briefly. That'd be slide 6, compost bins. That's called an earth machine. It's a very popular, but it doesn't really, it's good just for food waste. It's not so big, but for a good compost to work, it needs to be at least 1 square yard. And that's not really 1 square yard. It'll work, but it's not the best option. Next slide. That's a good almost free option right there. Just use some screen to make a round bin out of it, and it works just fine. Next slide. This is a free bin. If you got access to some pallets and you've got the room for it, you're not worried about the looks, it works extremely effectively well. And you use 1 pallet loose like that as the door, so you don't have to reach over the side. This is a 2-bin system, one to the other. And that requires a little bit of carpentry expertise and a little bit of space. Go ahead. And this is one of my favorites. These are food-grade barrels. This is a 77-gallon barrel. And what you do with something like this is you get your drill out and you drill a whole mess of holes all over in that, especially down here at the bottom, so that excess moisture can get out. And if you want to turn your compost, all you have to do is, with the lid on, is tip the thing over and roll it around. Very simple and easy. I like this because I'm what they call lazy. I don't want to put more effort into it than I have to. Next slide. Now let's back up for a minute. Let's review on some of the how-tos and why we compost. As you can see right there, we have a nice list. Things we know about it: improves your plant growth, reduces soil erosion, allows soil to maintain more water, fertility. I'm reading this. Reduces waste in the land. That's one of the reasons really that I am here. I joined Master Composters, not as a gardener, but as somebody that wanted to help the planet by reducing what we throw away into the landfill that becomes methane and other gases that we have to deal with. You know, soil to retain nutrients, gets the carbon rate up, resilience. It's something everyone can do, which is another important thing about composting. When you're composting, when you have a bucket on your sink or under the sink that you collect food scraps in, you're conscious every day about helping the environment. It's not something that you do happenstance when you think of it. You're doing it all the time, and you're constantly reminded without actually having to be reminded. It's just what you do. So composting helps your environmental awareness. And a little bit of explanation of my personal compost method. Next slide. I want to do that first. You choose a place, you add the ingredients, you add water, you keep things moving, wait a while. That's compost. Oh, got to go back here. What? I lose track of myself. This is the first time that I've given a speech like this. I think that's the reason that Marilyn wanted me to give a speech like this, was so that I get some experience giving a speech like this. So when I make little mistakes, those are things that I can learn from. And I learned a long time ago that if you're not making mistakes, then you're not trying. So, got to keep track of where I'm at here. All right, these are all great bins. We did that. As a master composter recycler for the county, one of the things that once you go through the training, they give you the training for free, but the requirement is that as a return, you have to go back and teach the community. So I worked at the Clark County Fair, doing the booth and the instruction about composting there. I also worked in the seminars, and at that time we gave 6 seminars in the spring and 6 in the fall, because those are prime time for compost, and the classes were always full. And there were other people there that knew all the specifics about composting, and they could teach you the science, the how-tos, the particle size, how much water, the size of the bin, everything specific. And then it was my turn. I was at the end. And my role in the presentation was to tell people that, again, there's no wrong way to do it. You don't have to put in a whole lot of effort. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money. And I like to do it my way, the lazy way. Now, how do I compost? I have a bin that was similar to that blue one. Actually, what it was it's an old curbside yard debris bin. Very large with a lid, it's got wheels on it. I poked a bunch of holes in it with my drill, and I put my compost in. I just flip the lid open, and when I'm doing composty stuff like pulling weeds or whatnot, I just throw them in the bin and flip the lid shut. Do I worry about turning it? No. Do I worry about watering it? Well, when it rains, I might open the bin lid and let the rain hit it. But, I don't worry about it. And when I'm doing the thing, I keep adding more into it, flip the lid shut. And it usually takes me, because I have a relatively small yard, it takes me about 2 years to fill that bin up. So, what could be easier than that? And then once every couple of years or so, or when it gets full, then I'll screen my compost and use it as a mulch on the flower beds. But that's an extreme example of being extremely lazy. People have the wrong idea, and they think that composting, especially when you listen to the science of it all, I think it has to be hard. But if you just throw it into a pile, if you have room in your backyard for just a plain pile, that works fine. But some people have neighbors that might complain. My bin, it might smell, only if I take it apart, as long as it's inside there. A bin like that blue bin, if you have animals, raccoons, bears, or anything like that in your yard, that'll keep them out. It's kind of hard to get inside that barrel when it's sealed up. Okay, let's see what the next slide is. This is an example of composting. You get your browns and your greens, and that's an ideal mix. But like I said, that doesn't work for me. In the springtime, I have lots of green. In the wintertime, I've got almost no green. So how do you mix those in there? You're going to save it. It won't stay green. You can't put it in a barrel and save it. So about mixing it so much. It takes longer. It's not as professional, but it does the job. Next slide. The blue barrel. That's for lazy composting. Next slide. This is what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid putting our compostable garbage and our food waste into the landfill because it's The landfill, first of all, is very expensive. We may not notice how much it costs each of us to have a landfill to put our garbage into, but it's paid for in your garbage fees, in your property taxes, and nobody really says anything about it, because if you actually thought about it, it would really make you angry at how much money you're spending for a landfill. So the more we take that garbage out with the small things that we do, recycling, not buying stuff you don't need, composting, the less we need one of those and the less money we're spending, because me, I don't like spending money. I don't have to. Next slide. See? Cool the climate. It's good for the environment. You keep the methane and those other gases out of the environment, and you're helping the environment. Also, when you're composting, you're keeping that cycle within your own small space. Next slide. Composting, that's as easy as, this is something lions can do. Which slide number is that? Oh, go ahead, back up. What slide number is that? Oh, you're on it, okay. Never mind. There it is, 17. All right. So what I'm after here, and the reason I'm here today, is posting as a Lions environmental project. And I'm not here to say what you should do or how you do it, but if we can think about it, there are ways that we can help the community with composting. Next slide, number 18 and number 19. Yeah, from garbage to garden, it's compost time. Next slide. You could become a master composter and help teach composting to people. That's an effective way. Imagine your Lions shirts or your Lion jackets, and you're turning your compost, and the people see that. That connects you directly to it. Next slide. See, you could do a table like that with just the basic instructions about composting, and it brings awareness. Now, probably half to 3/4 of the people you talk to, like the people here, already compost. But there's the rest of the crowd that you're after. Next slide. You can have outdoor composting classes where you bring people in and teach how to compost. That's a lot of fun, especially when you bring in the kids. Love it. Next slide. A demo spot. If you have a community garden, that's a good place to put in a demo compost and bring your compost down there and let the community see your how to compost by looking at it. Kids, like I said, kids love composting. One of the things that we need to do more as Lions is service projects that involve children. You involve the children, the parents come with it. Not so much the other way around. So you bring the children in and, go ahead, next slide. They love playing with the dirt and the worms. It's kind of an affinity that children have to getting dirty. So composting is natural for them. Next slide. They'll do it. They'll make it a school project. You go into schools and set up a compost program with a grade school. It's a piece of cake. It practically does itself. Next slide. The kids love this stuff. And like I said, I'm not here to suggest how the club should use composting as a service project in your community. Maybe you'll do it as just what you do in your backyard, and if anybody's interested, you can come see my compost. Maybe you want to do the seminars where you teach people in a setting like this, or you want to do a demo garden, compost in a community garden, or whatever your project could be. But I think composting could be a very good, very useful service project for Lions Club. Last slide. If you have any questions about compostings, or you want to talk to me about project ideas that you have, feel free to look me up. And I'm done.
That mic back, Leslie.
Any questions?
Questions?
Right back here.
What can people do that live in apartments?
You can do a worm bin that goes under your kitchen sink. That's if it's maintained properly, it's very minimal order. Or put it out on your deck. I've seen that done. But compost projects.
Can the mic go back to the speaker, please?
Okay, give me back one. Give me that. All right. Compost in apartment complex is kind of a particular problem. You have a very limited space, so everything has to be kept small. But something like that, like a smaller version of that blue barrel, if you go onto like Craigslist or something like that, you can find those things used and relatively cheaply priced. So that would work on your, that would work, one of those, even a smaller version, 55 gallon would work on your deck. Or an old garbage can would work. My mother lived down at the coast and she had a regular large garbage can with a lid on it. She'd bungee cord it, and to stir it, she'd just tip it over and, you know, roll it around. Marilyn.
I attended the MD-19 environmental presentation. You were involved in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I remember one of the things that was addressed is if you do more of a, I guess you could say, a sophisticated system, was turning it and why do you turn it?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other reason about all the layers and how it keeping that compost loose so it doesn't build up heat and I believe less odor. Is that correct?
Well, you don't worry about the heat because the heat is being manufactured by the microbes in the center of the compost, and you do want it to heat it up. In a large, like a commercial windrower operation, it can be 150 degrees inside the compost. So the heat is good and normal, but as far as odor goes, yes, you do want to turn it regular to keep the odor down. And the reason is if it's all packed and there's no oxygen in it, the microbes, the anaerobic microbes begin to grow. Those are the ones that don't need oxygen and they smell.
Okay. And then the other thing was when you keep it looser like that, oh, I know what it was. You presented what not to use in a compost and what is okay to use.
Basically, I put everything in there except oils, meats, and fats. Because those will putrefy, and they'll also attract flies, you know, get maggots in there. Those are good composters, but to most of us, that's kind of icky. We don't want maggots in our compost. Over here.
Hi, the only thing I know about composting is how to spell it. Now, you did say that a lot of this stuff ends up in the landfill.
Correct.
Not knowing anything about composting, wouldn't it turn to compost in the landfill?
It does, but the problem with a landfill, to imagine a proper landfill, think of a jar with the lid on. It may compost and break down, but the only thing that gets out is the gases, which is not good. Because every day it gets dumped, and then every day they back cover it.
Another question. You mentioned keeping like something underneath your sink.
Right.
Number one, gross smell. Number two, what about the inks?
The inks?
Ants.
Ants. Well, I wouldn't personally have the compost bin under the kitchen sink.
You mentioned it.
I know, because I've seen it done, and I've seen it advertised and used. But sugar ants in particular, I have a problem with those. And so I wouldn't do it there. I would do it out in the carport, any place that would stay dry and relatively warm. Big dog.
Cleaning up after the dog, that goes
No, because animal pet waste can have other pathogens and worms and things in it. Not that it does, but it could. And you don't want to put that into your compost, which might go into your garden. So what some people do, they put basically a bucket that's buried in the yard. It's called a digester. You just put that goodies in there and let it break down there. Yes, sir.
Your 10 reasons why, there's one I didn't see. It saves on your plumbing, especially your garbage disposal. There are some vegetables, fibrous vegetables like
Celery.
That it causes like entanglement in the mechanism, and so you save wear and tear on that.
Well, if it's going into a septic, that's not so bad. But if it's going into a sewer, all that vegetable matter you put in comes back out again before they can process it. Over here.
I found with my composting, I have a walker now, I start walking, but I have a 3-bin system, and I found, I didn't even know that for over 2 years, but I had found a big carton of it. And it just goes right with the And I have a carpet on my sink. And goes out my here or
I wanted to mention real quickly before I get to you, Marilyn, a concept called, we used to call it grass cycling. That is, when you mow the lawn, don't bag your grass. Because, well, there's three things in your fertilizers, and the first thing in your fertilizers is nitrogen. And the thing that makes grass green is nitrogen. So when you cut the grass, you're pulling that away from it. You're breaking the cycle. If you leave it on the grass, all that nitrogen goes back into the grass. So, and that's, for most people, that would be the largest percentage of your compost material. If you don't compost your grass, you don't really have a bunch of compost to do. Food waste is a big one. Yes?
one other thing now is the perfect time to gather bags of dried leaves. That's
Mhm.
those. And I put my pig matter in and about 4 inches of dried leaves. And my compost bin usually has steam coming off of it. And I was teaching people how to do it. And he said, oh, it's going to burst into flame. And he turned the whole thing upside down and took it down.
I created a windrow in small town Anaconda, Montana many years ago. And in the wintertime, I was turning the pile with the tractor, and some people passing out on the highway didn't know what was going on, so they called the fire department. Marilyn.
Oh, I just wanted to hear what she said.
Oh, yeah. So, most of us, again, like I said, we're preaching to the choir. Now I'm asking you, people who are preaching to the choir, find people who are not in the choir yet and preach to them. Anything else? There you go.
Thank you very much. I'm going to present you with the Lions Cup and application. I know you...
I could be a lion too?
Yeah, you can be a lion too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Longview Pioneers.
All right, moving on.
Take somebody out of the fire and have to go.
Yeah, we
Sunshine
try.
report.
We do.
Marge?
No, I grew up in Camas.
President Tom
But I moved to Anaconda because that's where my
I have
wife
a
was
card
from.
here at the Berry family, and I have a card for Rose because she's having knee surgery today.
It's a beautiful place. Too bad there's no jobs.
Okay.
Losing money.
Very limited.
That's up right now.
Hey, wait your turn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving along. Thursday at 8 o'clock in Leroy's office. Hey, you got something?
President Tom Coleman's guest, reminder on membership, there's no initiation fee through the end of the year. At our meeting on Thursday, the board meeting, we do have 3 applications to run through and possibly a 4th one. So we're doing good on membership, and at the board meeting I'm going to be presenting a program for a membership drive probably next month. So keep that in mind, and as soon as we get board approval, I'll be announcing what it is.
Okay, Cindy?
I know you're coming over here, right?
President Tom, members, and guests. We have a few things going on still. We have visitations. A big one would be Liz Cemetery, October 21st. We have our treasurer's meeting thing. We should probably go and read it. Yeah, they've had it for years. To me until last month, someone told me that they haven't. Well, oh, yeah, it is. I'm getting so excited about going there. We'll have to do a visitation there. And then on the 25th is Aberdeen, and then, good meeting. It is. And, the address on there is on your calendar that I sent out today. So it'd be nice if you could join that. It's at noon. I keep getting these changes. I'm trying to keep up. Yeah. So, as of now, that's what it is. And then Hoplium is the 26th. This Saturday is our district cabinet meeting. So, those who want to know more about Lions, it's a really interesting meeting. So, that's this Saturday at 9 o'clock till noon. They're serving donuts. If that entices you.
Cindy, did you say 9? I thought you said 10.
10. I want you to get there early. It's at the Canterbury Inn.
Is that Longview?
It's in Longview. It is in Longview. And then the fall convention is coming up, 5th and 6th. You can sign up as a Zoom. And that's what I'm going to say.
So moving along, I am going to, let's see, I can't read the bubble glasses. Oh, I'm going to turn it over to Pat. Well, you have 4 minutes.
Well, President Tom, fellow lines and guests, I'm gonna get us kicked off. Here's $30. I have 29 happy dollars for every year that Carrie was friends. And one really pissed off sad dollar because some low-life son of a broke into my building and stole stuff from me this morning. So if you find out in the police blotter that I've been arrested for assault and battery and murder, tell me the guy is worth it. Yeah, it ain't no fun. We'll come back. How about right here? Blind Ron Horn. Blind Ron Horn. Hi, this is Ron.
Hi, Ron.
He's a Edward Jones guy, and he comes every once in a while. And he's really handsome.
President Tom, fellow Lions and guests, I put $10 happy dollars in there. This is the first time I've been back to Lions in quite a while, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Thank you, Ron. We missed this table last week. I'm not missing it this week. Margie?
President Tom, fellow members and guests, I have $5 in memory of you.
Thank you. I know, because I gave you my last $5. Marilyn Patterson, District Governor.
President Tom, fellow Lions and guests, I got $5. Yeah, that's good. I'm not working, you know where I find my money.
Not any longer.
One's for Gary Hill. We're going to miss him so much. The other $1 is for Gretchen for being here. We really appreciate you. And then I've got $1 because I see Judy Fromm, and $1 because I saw Ron Horn. And then Cindy Ficken, I've got an encouragement $1 because you really got picked on today.
He's tougher than that. How about Lion Jim Reineke?
How about?
Put the microphone out, stand up, pick up
The microphone and say, hey, Lion Tom, fellow Lions and guests, I gave 2 sad dollars. Usually I give a happy dollar or a sad dollar. The happy dollar is for being here. The sad dollar this time, though, is for someone I think who was a friend of everyone in this room and everyone in Lyons, and probably everyone else. That's Gary Hill. We're gonna miss him.
Very first. President Tom, well, I guess I got a few dollars today. One, of course, is from a good buddy, Gary. Gonna miss him. Before he came to the meeting today, call on. I got a call from Cindy Sessions. She is in Alabama. She is with Tracy McDaniel. And when I was talking to her, she and Tracy were heading to a Lions meeting down there. And I think she was driving too. I hope so. And the other dollar, I too am glad to see Miss Judy here today.
John Claypool, past president.
President Tom, fellow Lions and guests, I have a $20 bill here, all the great memories I have of Gary. I also want to make a motion that today's proceeds from Happy Dollars, Lion Tamers, etc., be donated to our Sight and Hearing Foundation. And is to be called for a vote.
Sit.
I don't think anyone's going to say anything there.
Tina, it's up to you, girl.
All right, put my dollars back. In that case, I got $20 here. Gary thought it was his mission, I think, in life to lift people's spirits. And he definitely did that in his club. And so part of mine is happy, sad dollars. Sad dollars is will miss Gary tremendously. And Judy, it's good to see you. I missed you. And we miss other people in our group. You know, I know people are still hesitant to get out and about, but praying that this doesn't last too much longer.
If I pull the dollars, it looks like double. So. But, yeah. Anyway, I attended the Sight and Hearing board meeting. I was so impressed. I did not realize some people in our midst don't make hardly anything. And I was blown away by how little they can feel their living. So I really, that's really perfect to go with that. I was very impressed. Thank you. And Vitero, no explanation needed.
I'm going to break tradition, President Tom, Lions and guests. All the equipment that make this Lions Club.
family, for Gary. Any of you that roomed with him know part of the reason he was called Gare Bear. He can get the shirt out his back. Every week. And the second side, if I got an extra dollar,
Anybody else wants to do the donation here? Oh, there we go. Thank you, Greg. Anybody come front row? And then we'll come back to,
$1 because I only have $1. Because I'm happy I made it through the presentation and nobody got it.
these people here will be trying to compost their Clorox bleach bottle. Got it. Pretty nice. World Championship. And they won the World Championship there. But the team in their division was there. $5 for that information. Hey, I got a gold medal in the Olympics. Yeah, you want to see it? Come on over to my house. What the hell? Okay, wait. President Tom, let's talk about another little piece of Lions business, and that happens to be the fact that, of course, Lion Gary Hill was our T-shirt and specialty merchandise salesperson. And there are 7 bins, 3 racks, maybe 4 racks, and an entire closet full of merchandise. Gretchen, I hope I don't give away too many specifics, but Gretchen and her daughter are going to be moving into Gary's house. I imagine they would love to have access to that closet and use it, because Lily, of course, is a teenage girl, and she's not a clothes horse, but she's always very tastefully dressed, isn't she, Mom? Yeah. So we're looking for somebody who can take that over. Yeah, it's 25 lineal feet of racks and 7 large bins of T-shirts and other things. We never do anything small, do we, boys and girls? So the worst case scenario is going to end up upstairs at the Lions shop, and we'll have to find another person to actually do the sales and pieces and parts of that. So if that falls into your heart space of something you'd like to do, or if you have a little spare bedroom that you'd like to run a non-profit business out of, we'll set you up. He's got the 3-ring binder and the sales slips and the receipts and everything else. Which you did, okay. So anyway, let's just think about it. Lion Wayne.
President Tom, fellow Lions and guests, there's another contribution for Gary.
Catch you a little bit. Oops, hold on. We might as well just start calling her Lion Gretchen.
Or then coming in 10, so.
President Tom.
President Tom, fellow Lions and guests.
There you go.
Last time I spoke to my dad, he told me a story that I better put a hat I don't feel like I can remember what it was, but I want to make sure it gets done.
All right, Mike. How are you doing?
I hope everybody, President Tom, fellow Lions and Chasse, remember Aurelia, because there's probably, maybe some other people as well. But anyway, one of the things I remember about Gary is that he had some chairs. You wouldn't have to replenish them, so I could use them at the house. So I bought one. And this is well before I moved to the land, which was our favorite place. Well, memorable. He also took me shopping. Also, something that's really happy, and I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to sing a song with that right afterwards. Because the person involved likes the song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Brothers are diabolical, aren't they? President Tom, we're going to go ahead and count up, and if we have a minute while things are going on at the end, we'll let you know what we're going to be donating in Gary's name.
Okay, thanks. Moving on, let's see, city, disability.
No, we don't. I should probably pay a dog. Members again. You know that I can see, but I had to ask for two people who they were because I haven't seen them for a while. Probably I should pay a couple dollars.
Okay, so, we still need, I had also wrote that down, Ken, on my list here, things with helpless stuff for mine. I have contacted, I don't know how many people, the poor, I mean, everybody that I can think of. I went to Wilcox and Flagel yesterday, and I went to, I did hear of a place that possibly in Kalama, but I don't know that we want to start going that far away to put stuff out, but when all bad comes to worst, we might have to do it, but, I don't know if anybody knows anything else. I've tried and tried and tried. I'm waiting for a call from our, what's his name, Jeff Wilson to see, they might have a place out at, what's that out there? Barlow Point that we might be able to use. So I'm just waiting for a call back from them on that. But we need, time's running out. That's all I can say. The other thing is that the board meeting for Thursday, the 21st at 8 o'clock at Leroy's office. And do not park in Red Canoe parking lot. All right, moving on from there, let's do, so, 1, 7. 390-79. All right. Where would you like that to go? Idea? As you all know, it's passed.
$295.
Okay, just so everybody's kind of up to date, as you can tell, I've changed the schedule around a little bit because I felt the person that's doing the speaker isn't, working on time. So try, and I changed it around so that the speaker can go adjust the rest of our meeting to adjust the rest of the meeting. So from there, because some people were kind of confused what's going on, so I just want to let you know that's what's happening. So anyway, with all of that said, I just want to thank Leslie for coming here, and the meeting's closed.